Hello, and welcome to Apropos, a conversation between Clojure programmers that you can join in live on YouTube. We're going to discuss a few Clojure news items and share our opinions on them. Then we'll jump into a REPL and code some exercises or do some demos. If you're joining us live, feel free to comment in the chat and we'll try to address the questions. So I'll introduce the panel. Today we have Mia.
Hi.
Mike.
Hello.
Ray.
Buenos dias.
And I am Eric.
Buenos dias, Raymond.
I started my Spanish lessons last week, see, so I'm practicing. Hola, ¿cómo está?
Estoy bien.
So we were having a nice discussion, and we decided to end or pause the discussion and rewind and replay. So everyone assume the same
mental state that you're in. Yeah.
Of the conversation.
Unwind the stack.
So we were talking about the ClojureScript compiler, and how Mike had a really cool episode on the. He was interviewed on the REPtiLe podcast. Which, by the way, is an awesome podcast, but it doesn't actually have a REPL like ours does.
Yeah.
Oh, it's right now. All right. Ours actually has a REPL.
Dang.
Mike had a lot of good stuff to say about.
Well, Mia was interested in contributing to the compiler. She started asking about that.
Yeah.
And she was like, what do you do to even... I guess, Mia, you were saying you've never even done an open source contribution.
I've never done an open source contribution. Nope.
So why not? The compiler is the first. but to be honest, it's actually pretty. Some of the tickets are pretty easy, and especially there's tickets that are flagged as being newbie tickets, and a lot of those are easy in the sense that they're like things like so. Okay, so the ClojureScript compiler typically tracks Clojure, right? It's not trying to invent anything new in terms of the core language. So whenever Clojure gets updated, a lot of those things end up needing to be ported over to ClojureScript. So they're often pretty straightforward to do. At least you have an idea of what to do, right? Because you have this existing change on the Clojure side, and a lot of the stuff is pretty much straightforward copies onto the ClojureScript side. But there's if you ever are interested in getting into like, what do I even do to begin, there's a bunch of documentation on the clojurescript.org website. Over on, I think it's on the right-hand part, there's the contribute or community. There's a bunch of links that describe all the stuff. Like if you ever come to a brand new software project, you're like, how do I even build the thing? How do I run its unit tests? How do I just work with this code base? And a lot of that is documented to the nth degree in there.
Yeah,
as Mia found out, one of the things you click on right away is broken even in the site.
Yeah.
how do you sign your CA? And you click on that link and it says page not found, so that you can even contribute to the site.
Yeah,
I guess me first.
With all the newbie tickets, I was going through the newbie tickets and I was like, oh, I could do this. Like this, like when someone says, oh, you want to work on a compiler, it feels like it's very, very serious business, and it is serious business. Yeah, but it's serious business that there's a lot of like small work that needs to be done. So I'm pretty excited to get involved.
Yeah, some of the changes are in the core library, not in the compiler proper. Like I think, Mia, you saw some examples where like some optimizations that were being added to the Clojure core library, like changing a seek in one place to a lazy seek or something, just for, to add a little bit more laziness, I guess, in that one instance. So in those cases, you can lean on your existing knowledge of how Clojure and ClojureScript works. And you can just, port those things over, add some unit tests if there aren't any, and I think that kind of stuff is fairly straightforward.
Yeah, you do have to go through this signing of the contributor agreement and sending it in and stuff like that. Well, no, I think it's electronic now, isn't it? It's electronic.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, I think you
have to
fax it or something.
use your finger or something to sign the contributor agreement. The big X.
I remember when you had to print it out and mail it in, or
mail it to a chickie.
Yeah.
With your signature.
Before Cognitect, you had to do that.
Send it via, the stagecoach.
Yeah, right.
And Eric, you were saying you actually contributed at some point, right?
I did. Yeah, when source maps first came out, I was working on something and I wanted source maps working. And it was one of these things where the spec for source maps says that the URL in the source map, or like in the file that points to the source map, has to be relative to the current file. Mm-hmm. So I believe that everything was hard coded to be relative to something else. So it's like trying to find it off the disk instead of fetching it through HTTP, like my JavaScript was being served. Right. So it's just some little change, like it works on your machine until you go through a browser that's going through a web server and it stops working. And so I made a patch and I did a bad job at first, and it got
seems, rejected, or
it got I got a message from a comment on it or something from David Nolan. He's like, "Did you change something else?" Because I was I'm so used to like working at a company on a like internal code base, and you're in the code and you like see something that could be improved. You just like make a change.
Right.
But this is a public project with like a public facing API, right?
Yeah.
So basically he said, "Did you change part of the API?" I was like, "I think so." And then he's like, "Well, don't do that." Because I checked, nothing else was calling that function, and it had a complicated signature, right?
Yeah.
And I just changed the signature of that function to make it simpler. And he was like, "Don't do that." And so I didn't. And so it was like, it turned my 7-line patch into a 1-line patch, which made my ego feel bad, but it got accepted right away. And
one thing I would say is so that what you described happened to me a lot, and you were using ClojureScript before I was, and back in the old days, stuff would break more frequently than it does now, or you would run into corner cases.
Never upgrade.
It's kind of like, it reminds me of like maybe in 1910, if you're trying to drive a car across the United States, you had better be a mechanic if you're going to do that, right? You have to be ready to roll up your sleeve, or you just have to suffer. You don't know how to fix it. So what I did was, I'm like, okay, damn, I'm going to go fix whatever this is that's stopping me from getting my work done.
That's right.
So that happens to all of us, though, right? If you see something that's broken and it's affecting you, just sometimes you're now the expert on whatever that is because you're experiencing it. A lot of times it's surprisingly easy to track down to where that bit of code is failing, because it all is Clojure and you can read it and you're like, right here, this little bit here.
Grep for source maps and, look at where it is.
And then another thing I'd say is when you make a patch, you definitely don't want to be changing things outside of the scope of what you're fixing. But like, or if your editor is like doing bulk white space formatting, you definitely don't want to do anything like that, because what will happen is all these patches will start to collide with each other or conflict.
For sure.
But having said that, I found that David is like remarkably lenient on what he'll accept in terms of like style. Like he doesn't care, in terms of like, as long as it's readable and makes sense technically. If you choose to choose a funky name or something like that, I've never seen him complain about things like that. He seems to care about the things that absolutely matter. He's not picky, if that's another way of putting it. Because I could see like contributing to some open source projects where they're really picky and they like really want like every last little thing, and that's just that's a turnoff, I guess. So yeah, if you want to just like make small patches that you don't have to worry about David like saying change this, that, and the other. It's actually much nicer experience than you might think.
I just signed my contributor agreement.
Woohoo!
Do it.
By the way, why isn't it managed with pull requests? Why is it managed with patches? Because that seems annoying to me.
Yeah. So what is the argument? What is the argument for that?
So Rich Hickey's
argument. Pull requests are easy. That's my argument.
Well, no.
Patches. But they seem not easy.
We can try to recite the argument and see if you agree with it or not.
Okay.
So my understanding from Rich Hickey's, output is that he feels that GitHub's model is contributor centric and not maintainer centric, and so it doesn't give the maintainer control of the control of like managing all the stuff going on. And so that's why he likes Jira better, because it lets you set up. Yeah, it's all done in Jira. And so GitHub is great for like, I found a bug, let me put an issue, right? But it's not as good for the maintainer who's looking at this list of issues and trying to prioritize which ones to work on and stuff. And doing stuff like
that seems to be an orthogonal concern to me, because
orthogonal to what?
Orthogonal to the list of issues being worked on. I want to just I just want to submit a fix to a bug, and I don't care about how many other issues you've got going on. That's your problem as a maintainer. But for me, I've made a fix. It's a one-line change, like you said. There it is. Click, pull request, bam, job done. You as the maintainer have got an easy job because you just see the diff is very small. You hit the merge button and you're off. This is so easy. I mean, that's how we do use GitHub that way, and that's so fucking easy. So I'm sorry, but I don't get it. I don't get why it's contributor centric. It's very easy for the maintainer as well.
Well, okay, so I guess I'm gonna be like the
devil's advocate.
Absolutely, Rich Hickey's advocate.
Yeah.
So a lot of the overhead of maintaining the tickets and things as they work through the process, he has given to other people, as delegated it to other people. So he doesn't even get a notification or anything until it's been vetted. There's a bunch of checks that people do on it. And I don't think that's possible in GitHub. I don't think you can have like a thing that's assigned to people, and then when they're done, then you finally see it.
Well, having said that, I would say that like just the concept of making sure that someone's signed a CA, there are like tools and robots that'll do that for you in GitHub now.
Yeah,
and if you haven't,
I'm sure you could script it up with robots if you needed to.
And Jira,
yeah, the same way you use Jira's UI to,
click around,
define like workflows and stuff.
Another thing
I bet you could do that in GitHub.
Yeah. Another thing that I like is if you're reviewing a patch, you'd like to know, does it pass its unit tests? You can't see that in Jira where a patch is just attached to a ticket. You have to actually take that patch out and apply it yourself. Run the unit tests.
Yeah, the other big problem I find is that, and you see this in the Jira tickets actually, is that people say, "Oh, the patch is stale" or whatever, but you don't know that. If you are in GitHub, it'll tell you whether it can merge or not.
Right.
That might be that it won't work still, or whatever. But you can see where everything's drifted.
For sure.
I just don't get it. I mean, I think it's and okay, fair enough. That's for Rich. Let him make that case. But what about David? Because I don't see David's got a different setup. He doesn't need to use the same system as Rich. I don't know. It just seems like but like you say, it's his project. He can do what he wants. But for
this
me,
is definitely a very controversial issue, right? There's lots of people who will argue against it. Probably more people see your side, Ray, than the other side.
And Rich's words on this in 2012, when someone told him it was easy to do pull requests on GitHub, was, "Lots of people eat fast food as well."
Yeah. Okay. He must be.
It's also possible that GitHub since 2012, when they has changed, and we're just we have to use it at work, and so we're used to using it and doing well with it. Whereas back then, Jira was more sophisticated and had the features that he wanted. So this could be like, if he would just look through the features that it has now, he might make a different decision. But the cost of migrating it over is not. He doesn't want to do that right now. So
one thing I would like to see
too. So.
Yeah, I would like it to be there as well. But one thing I'd like to add to it, if they could change it, is if you're making a pull request, I'd like to make it so that you can't force push something new to that pull request. I'd like some level of immutability, so that what you're reviewing is what you're reviewing, and it doesn't change out from underneath you.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I think that happens anyway, right? Even in your day-to-day job, someone put a new thing on a pull request,
or even just like you rebase and something weird happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's a small bit of friction for people that are, who want to join the project and contribute, who are used to just making pull requests.
And
now they've got to do this patch, and then they've got to associate that patch onto Jira, and it kind of is in the ether then. The nice thing about GitHub is that all the comms are there,
Yeah.
You've got all of the events and the workflows, they're all built into it. And this sort of disjoint situation, I don't think it's either simple or easy. That's my point. It doesn't satisfy any of those requirements, but I guess it makes him happy, so that's good. But fair enough.
Yeah, there's something about the GitHub process that they felt was heavy or less than ideal for the reviewer side.
But I agree with Eric. I mean, maybe 6 years ago it was shitter, but it seems pretty hot now. So,
what you'll also see people is like balk against the idea of even signing a CA. They're like, "What? I have to sign something to give you a patch?" Like, well, there's reasons,
That doesn't bother me too much. I mean, if there's a barrier to jump through, that's fair enough. It's just all these constant set of barriers,
Yeah.
It is. So I believe that the GitHub model that they figured out, the company GitHub has figured out, is that it is one of those changes where it reduces the friction in so many different places in so many ways that it changes the whole game. Right. And so it could be, if they did ever move to GitHub, it could be one of those things that like, now there's 1,000 contributors to Clojure, whereas before, it was like a funnel process, right? And it could be something else now because of GitHub. Just like there's all these visualization tools that will visualize source code repository commits, and there's one that was really cool. It was the Rails repo. And they moved from Subversion to Git. And when it was on Subversion, it was like 10 people or so. And then as soon as they moved to Git, there were still the 10 core people, but then there were like just people that would just flash in for a couple of commits and then flash out. And it just, the activity level on it just exploded. And the fact that it could be managed, all that amount of activity could be managed using the new tool is that's what it's all about. That's why people like Git.
I like your fresh anger, Ray, though, because I hear this argument every month. someone will, no, it happens. This is not going away. Like someone will accidentally give a PR to like Clojure or ClojureScript, and then you say, nope, doesn't work. And then you hear the argument again, like, oh, here we go.
So that was what I was looking for. When I was like, how do I commit? What I really meant was, where do I submit a PR? I just applied my first patch yesterday. Thanks, Reed, who's on chat now.
Hey. I mean, I actually don't even. I've never made a patch. I never made a Git patch.
I know it's a lot of overhead, right, to figure all that out.
I just don't know how to do it. I mean, I can obviously. I guess I'll
copy paste the command.
I'm sorry.
You just copy paste a command from somewhere.
It tells you how to do it.
You have to
I know. I guess, but still,
you want the easy button.
I don't know how to do it, and again, there's no workflow around it. I can't just go to. I mean, it would be nice to me if I could go to GitHub and say, "Okay, create a patch." Maybe I can now, actually. Yeah.
Maybe you've convinced Cognitech to change their mind.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. We'll get Alex on the chat. Come on, Alex.
He'll be like, "Oh, I'm so tired of this argument." Let me get out there.
I mean, I do get the point about having. I mean, and again, I don't know enough about the workflow in Git to say, okay, if you've got the master branch, like the rich branch or the master branch that you have to eventually merge into. I'm pretty sure you can merge into other branches. I know that much. So I don't know why, a PR can't be merged into branch X for review, and then branch Y for further review, then branch Z for further review, and then branch master for
it
rich.
wouldn't even need to be that complicated.
No, exactly.
It would just need to be. I mean, I've worked at companies where we used emojis to represent our workflow, right? So
right.
Someone would review it and put like a thumbs up emoji or something, and then the next person would review it, would put a second, like a 2 thumbs up emoji. I don't know, and you could just see at a glance, like, oh, I see where we're at in the process.
Maybe he just doesn't want the reviews to be public. That's the other possibility.
I think Clojure was just never designed to be contributed to never intended to be contributed to at volume. I mean,
that's a good point.
Like Rich, if you read what he's written about Clojure and the contrib process, seems to have been pretty clear and pretty consistent all along that Clojure is his project and he wants to run it the way he wants to run it. And pull requests or patches on GitHub on Jira aren't so much actual patches you expect to get applied as they are just work suggestions. And I think that's kind of the only light in which the contrib process as it currently stands makes sense, is you suggest things about Clojure that could be better and maybe you do some of the work. But I think that the marginal odds that Rich actually agrees with your approach and merges it are pretty low. And that's by design. That's not an accident.
But it's safe to say that that's not what ClojureScript wants. Like ClojureScript is very, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but it seems like much more community driven. So in that case, is it worth reworking the workflow?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess there is it feels different to me. ClojureScript feels different than Clojure.
Yeah, it feels very approachable to me. Like I feel like the existence of newbie tickets is really welcoming.
Yeah,
exactly.
David Nolan's done a fantastic job of making ClojureScript accessible to first-time contributors, and I think that the point I'm trying to make is just that's a concerted effort that David has made, and it takes a lot of work to make a project that accessible and keep it that accessible to people, and that's not work that Rich has chosen to give away on Clojure, perhaps.
I do remember in the early days when things were still done on IRC and Rich was active on IRC.
Yeah.
A lot of people. What's that?
He was involved more heavily back then, right?
Yeah, and I think part of it was just promotion, just wanting to like make sure that people knew about it and he could answer questions quickly. And he later stepped back from that because it was too much. But I remember him talking about how people would submit patches and he would say, why don't you just tell me the change? Because I know exactly in the code, like I know the code in and out. I'm in it every day. And if there's a small change, it's way faster for me to do it.
Yeah. I mean, this is a thing that I've kind of banged heads with Alex on a couple times, the depths. I found a bug in tools depths earlier this week and submitted a patch for it. And turns out I had the wrong patch because like I had a patch that passed my test case, but didn't capture the semantics that Alex and Rich wanted for the Depths Eden library. And that's part of the problem with taking patches is you do get these, not necessarily drive-by patches, but you do get changes from people with incomplete understanding of the code base and its context.
True.
And they don't make perhaps they make a fix that works, but perhaps not the fix that someone who's deeply intimate with the system would choose.
And in that case, you end up with a lot of wasted effort in reviewing these patches only to find out that they're not applicable.
Right, which is why I think the current incarnation of the Clojure contrib process is so focused on comms and emailing and problem statement over tickets and patches and patch review.
Yeah, so I think you missed the first part of the conversation, Reed. Could you talk a little bit more about that? That what you just said, the focus is on, the current focus is on what?
The communication of issues and the messaging of intent. So, what problem you're trying to solve, not so much what the particular solution is.
I see.
Is there a point in the contributor agreement in that case You know, if you're going to get real about it, why pretend? Why put this fig leaf up there?
I think some of it's historical in that, you know, it used to be that there were actively patches taken, and it's not there aren't patches still taken, which you need to have the same license applied. But I think if you go read Stu Halloway wrote the like Clojure communication style guide recently. That's up on the blog. That's pretty clear about, you know, let's state what problem you're trying to solve in a manner that's approachable to an expert and let the expert solve it.
Very patronizing shit, I think, but there we are. Okay.
Yep. Well, would be my take on it as well. It's another fig leaf that the ownership can hide behind fairly effectively. But that's my hot take for the day, and I'll just stop right there.
All right.
I do also want to say that, like,
it's a hot take.
Devil's advocate again.
I see.
Oh my God.
Absolutely laughing, and I wish my camera was working. Sorry, Eric.
That's okay. You're laughing in your picture.
Read me nice.
So I want to like be the devil's advocate one more time, because you know, there's a lot. I would wish it was on GitHub too, right? So I don't want this to be totally one-sided. But I do believe that developing a compiler is complicated and has consequences that you might not think about when you're in the same way that you would, you know, if you're building a web app. It's easier to reason about the web app, and there have been patches by like really smart people that had unintended consequences, and there are famous stories about them, and you know, just small changes, you think, oh, this will optimize things, and it optimizes a couple of the benchmarks, but then it totally like fails on benchmarks that you didn't even think to test on. And you know, it's just complicated.
I mean, to me, it would be better if Clojure had more tests and had benchmarking that were public and not the bullshit stuff that comes out with, you know, like some comments, the REPL testing stuff. I mean, yeah, that's facile, I think. You know, if we're going to be, you know, all about like tests and quality, well, you know, be that. You know, that's okay for me. If that's what you want to do, you want to say, if you want to be very precise and say, okay, we only accept the best quality because we've got the great tests, we've got this. Actually, ClojureScript has got great tests, which makes it an open system. I think the very fact that Clojure hasn't got good tests and hasn't got a good benchmark actually inhibits change, because we can't demonstrate very easily that these changes will be beneficial. Whereas with ClojureScript, you can do that. You can run all the tests and say, yeah, everything passes, it all works. And, you know, it seems to implement this feature or fix this ticket or whatever.
But there's not tests on the Clojure side?
I don't know of any.
Fewer tests? Huh, interesting.
I don't know of any Clojure. I mean, I think that's one of the criticisms of Clojure, isn't it?
I mean, there is test coverage of core that's pretty reasonable test coverage of core. But again, I think that like evolving Clojure itself is not necessarily the thing that Rich or anybody else is really out to do. You know, either you're going to have enough infrastructure built up that you can safely make changes and make lots of them quickly, or you think that change is unnecessary. And hot take of the day, Clojure is arguably like the Golang of functional programming languages. It's very small, it's very simple, it's not featureful. It kind of has purposefully eschewed the features that are hard to implement in other languages, and that actually makes it very simple and very solid. And that's a benefit. It's not actually something I hold against it. It just means that the compiler can meaningfully be argued to be done, in fact.
Well, okay.
And you just don't need. Sure, you know, you could go do things like adding type inference or whatever, and flowing Java types through, and maybe you pull 15% throughput performance out of somewhere for some workloads. But like, is that worth the risk of making these changes that are, as Eric said, hard to evaluate and hard to test? And you know, what's your matrix here?
What about a patch that just fixes a bug? You know, there's some bug. Something blows up, you make a patch, fixes it. What's the problem? That's not changing the direction of Clojure. That's just correcting a fault. That seems to me to be.
I mean, I'm with you, and I literally am playing with, how can we go vendor the entire Clojure ecosystem in one of the mono repos I'm working in right now. It's like, wouldn't it be cool if we could run our own entirely patched Clojure as we may need it or not? Because realistically, we're not going to affect upstream change in Clojure. And, is that a priority for us? Is it not? I don't know.
It feels
10 years into the language, relitigating this again.
Okay. Yeah. We've had half an hour now of this stuff, so
I'm very excited to contribute to Clojure script.
Yes, awesome.
It's still
excited.
Clojure
Go
script,
do it.
Yeah, Clojure script has been in a different place for the past couple of years, right? It wasn't. You can still find bugs in that implementation,
and it's also usually running ahead of Clojure releases. So the features in 1.10 are still alpha in Clojure, but they're out released in ClojureScript.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating to watch the mutual API evolution between Clojure and ClojureScript in terms of they're clearly existing some conception of a common Clojure, but the naming is totally different, and the APIs eventually converge. And
I'd love to see a third point just to triangulate what exactly is Clojure.
I mean, technically there is Clojure CLR, but
it's not maintained in the same way.
Yeah.
But Java and JavaScript are really big platforms, so it's got a lot of reach. All right. So we should remind everyone that if we haven't just scared him off, Stuart Holloway is going to be on in October.
He's like, he's like, screw that.
Do we have
nice.
We've got it all out now.
We won't have Reed on. Reed will not be here.
Or as a matter of fact, he's coming on this episode right now to straighten.
Oh no, I'm logging off. Bye.
If you're in the chat, you're in right now. We'll let you in right now, Stu. No, so do we have a date on that?
We do. It's October. It's whatever the
10th?
whatever the 10th Thursday of October is. Let me go check that out. October 18th, I believe.
October 18. Nice. Okay. So just everyone, just know that he'll be on. You can ask him questions in the chat, and
be nice, please.
Yeah, it will be all about the lovely error messages that are being improved.
Right.
That's
which we're really excited about. Yeah.
Yeah. This is really good. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the REPL, because we've been talking about this for long enough.
Reed, are you anywhere near your computer? You were supposed to have a demo.
Oh, let's shelve that for next time around. I think there's been some exciting times with that.
All right.
Exciting times, nice.
The demo gods would smile, but I don't know if I can demo this quite yet.
That's software.
Yeah.
So are we all in REPL?
Let's do it.
So since we don't have the demo, we have an exercise.
Can we make this REPL big, Mike?
Oh,
the command screen. You have to pin it.
Who's controlling it?
You click the button. I think that's you.
I did. I pinned it. Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. Yeah, you always have to do it twice, right? Once is not enough. Yeah. Hopefully it's going full screen now.
Yes.
I think so. Let me check the
All right.
YouTube stream.
So I'll read the problem description. Write a program that finds the longest palindromic substring of a given string. And before we start on this, I want to say, I was looking through a list of beginner, intermediate, and advanced programming exercises. These are general programming exercises, not Clojure specific. And it's hard to find ones that are actually a challenge in Clojure. Sometimes it's write a program to reverse a list. And I'm is that something that's hard in other languages still? But I think that we're lucky. We have a really nice standard library, and so some of these things are super easy.
I mean, we could go do something more exciting, like implement top sort one of these days. But
yeah, we could do like the raft algorithm.
If we can pull raft off on the cast, I will be very impressed. Yeah.
Well, we do have an older exercise that's been there for a while, but it's Dijkstra's algorithm. But that one might be too long too. But it's a known algorithm, so it's really just implement it. It's not, figure out how to do it. One day.
We'll get there. Plenty of problems to solve.
So
what are we doing?
I would maybe suggest we write a predicate to see if something's how do you say that? Palindromic?
Yep.
Can we cheat here and assume anything about? Basically, can we accumulate only stuff? Longest substring. Oh, okay. So we actually can't really take characters from a sequence while that character exists on the other side because we have to build up a balanced.
So how about
thing?
So what's the dumbest thing to do? Is like generate every possible substring and check each one if it's a palindrome, and then just pick the longest one. Right.
Yep.
So it's just like pipeline, like. Generate every subsequence, filter it for is it a palindrome, and then do max key with count on it.
Yeah.
And then first.
So I think we could do this with was it algo combinatorics? I think has the permutations, combinations, subsequencing stuff that we could go grab. I think you could also do this by going over ranges, right? So you take the range over the length of your input string, and then you scan out so that's your center point, and you substir scanning out until you take all possible strings, and like that substir is probably going to be the cheapest way to do this by a fair bit. And it's going to be, I don't know if it's going to be a little bit easier to test if it's a palindrome or not. I think we still have to go write that.
Right. So palindrome is easy, right? Palindrome is defin pal s be equal. Let's do this. Let rs is the reverse of s, and then so we're going to say is rs equal to the reverse of s. So that first reverse converts it to a seq, and so then we reverse it twice, and now we know it's a palindrome. You could just get away with one, so maybe we do that.
Seems like there's something wrong with that. Do you have to put a seq in there? Or?
No.
There you go. That makes me feel better.
Seq s.
Yeah, I like that better. Because you had reverse twice in there.
I had reverse twice. Yeah. But yeah, I think 2 reverses is the same as no reverses. But there you go.
A good point.
One can hope.
One can hope. We can test it.
Inverse operations. Test them all day long.
Yeah.
All right. So there, Alt Enter, and now it is defined. You want to test it? Empty string. That's weird. So why doesn't the seek?
Is this an empty seeking thing?
The seek is
Well, yeah.
going to return null in that case.
It's going to return.
Whereas reverse will return an empty seek.
Yeah. But
seek returns nil.
Reverse of empty
seek returns nil.
Seek returns nil is reverse of nil. Reverse of empty seek should be.
I should seek the reverse. Seek. And then.
Hmm.
It's okay. We can all just play with it. It's quite nice with this reptile.
Yes. All right. So now we have what's mom, palindrome, but
Okay.
mop, not a palindrome.
Pop is a palindrome.
Says who? All right, so we have pal question mark. How do we do every combination? Reed, you had an idea,
So
but you're
lollipop is a good one because that's got 2 palindromes in it.
Ooh, that's a good test case. Can you define that test case for us,
No.
Ray? No? Oh, you're not on?
I haven't got enough space on the screen now.
Def
God damn
test
it.
one. Lollipop. Okay. So we expect a 3-character palindrome out of that. Okay, so subsequences are substrings of S. Read. Help me out.
Okay, so let's see. I think Mike's ahead on this one.
I'm just trying something. Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
and that's kind of where I was gonna go with this. I want
start
to hammer out
is
a fast palindrome here. Give me 1 sec.
So the range of count S, and then end is the range count S. Start at start. And oops, wrong place. Start. And then I guess we can get rid of 0. So maybe we do ink.
Trying to figure out how you
Okay,
do
yeah.
what the indexing math is to actually write the linear scan palindrome test for a string.
End is greater than start.
Yeah, that
Case.
sounds important. Yeah.
And then dot sub string of S start end. Okay. All right, so now I can do substrings of empty. We expect an empty sequence. Yes. Okay, substring of A is just one thing. Substring of A, B, C. What do we expect? We got
Wait.
A. How about we just do 2 first? Oh, wait, you're right.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
substrings of A is returning an empty list there.
Maybe it was the ink was messing it up.
Yeah, how do I get back to that?
There's a history there.
I know, but I can't see which one. Oh, I see. It's
There's a little
it's
hover
too
over.
far to the right. I can't reach it.
No, it's closest to you.
The closest one I have to me is odd 2, which
That one.
oh, someone else typed that. There it is. Substrings. Okay. So this end maybe is wrong. The range is going to give us a 0 for start. Oh, I see. This needs another ink. Now I can do. Where is
How's that one, baby?
substrings A? Yes. Okay. Substrings A, B. That looks right.
Yeah.
A, B, C. Looks right as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'm satisfied with that.
Yep.
All right. So
what was
then
the
we
trick?
have.
You needed a couple of inks in there.
Yeah.
Well, to avoid the off by one stuff.
Yeah, you need to be off the end. Looks like for range. You need if you want a 10, you got to do range to 11.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so longest palindrome is going to be thread, take S. Oh no, let's do thread last. S, filter, pal. No. I'm going to convert it to substrings. Oh, but now it's, that's right, substrings.
Yep, there you go.
Okay. Then you'll get all the pals.
So let's do that.
Yeah, just that one.
Longest palindrome of test 1, which is lollipop. We have all the palindromes. Does a single character string count as a palindrome for real?
Technically.
You'll always have one.
No. Must be at least 3, I think.
Yeah, let's redefine pal to not allow that.
I think that if a single string isn't, then it is an empty string.
I would say no.
Yeah, I'd say no as well.
Okay.
I'm going to go on a limb here. Play devil's advocate.
I don't think we need to argue over this. All right, let's see. Where is the new pal, the most recent? There. All right. Now we're going to say that S, if greater than count of S2.
Okay. Yeah.
Greater than 1. Then we're going to do that. Oops, I don't know how to use this thing. Otherwise, what? Okay, otherwise false.
Yeah.
So let's try again. Pal of A is false. And where's that longest palindrome? The test 1. Okay.
Yay. That's nice.
And so now we just, wait, let's go back to the definition of longest palindrome.
There is no longest. It's ill-defined.
Well, I like what you've done there. Is you've got a collection, which is nice. You know.
That's true. That's true. That's nice. So we could call this like palindromes,
longest palindromes. Even and it's an even better solution, isn't it, than the one was asked for, really? Because
that's true.
You know, that's Clojure for you. You get more.
You get more just by doing it the
functional way. Yeah.
All right. So now we're gonna do max key. Wait, we have to apply.
Yeah, this is a
apply max key count. Ooh. Now we're really talking here. Longest palindrome test 1.
Is max key
pop?
Max key count.
Now, why didn't it have quotes around it? Oh no, it never did. Okay.
This REPL doesn't support docs, so shut up, okay?
I kept my mouth shut.
About a man. Wait, let's do it without spaces. A man.
It's in alpha at the moment, you know. It's
a canal, Panama.
Oh, you misspelled canal.
Canal.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Yeah. Yes, the whole thing is a palindrome, so it is itself the longest.
All right.
But I agree that I would rather see all the palindromes, not just the longest. So I'm gonna go. Did we do it? Did we solve it? Give me another test case.
Well, monkey patch docs work.
Thank you.
Did you hack it in there?
Yeah, by hand. Wrote it out by hand.
Yeah.
Doc, but,
define it.
That's sweet. Yeah.
That's good. I like it. Thank you.
Sure.
I'm counting that as a feature now.
Hacker's gonna hack. Yeah.
Jeez.
Hey, when you've looked at docs premeditated enough times.
Yeah.
You need to have it so that you can just click on a function and it shows the doc.
That'd be really slick.
Yeah. No, there's lots to do, obviously. Yeah.
need
Is
to
this on
chat
GitHub
with.
or something?
Yeah.
Or is pull requests? Or is this
Yeah, it's on
Jira?
GitHub. Pull requests are available. Yeah.
Do you have
No,
a
it's
all there.
contributor agreement that we have to
No
sign?
contributor agreement. No,
No
that's
patch
now,
fine.
Eric.
Yeah. I've got one guy helping me test it, so that's good. Yeah. And none of you, so you bastards, help me out.
I'll have to come take a poke at this. This is pretty close to some other stuff I've been playing with. All right, let's see if I can get this function in here.
You're doing the combinations, combinatorics.
I was trying to do a nice string palindrome using indexing.
Oh.
You can add libraries here, by the way, if you want to.
Really?
It's available.
How do I do that?
That little plus sign will let you add a library.
Oh, nice.
Ooh.
At runtime.
Enter.
From
There's,
Git. Oh, wow.
From Git or Maven, whichever you
Yeah.
prefer.
So someone in the chat.
Is this steps Eden based? How does it work?
Yes.
Yeah,
And
it's
we'll get it in
Eden
there.
based, yeah.
Nice. Why does your parser not like my S expression?
Yeah, so this is not a very fast solution, right? We are generating substrings that we know shouldn't, could not be palindromes. So like one thing you could do is if you know the start and the end indexes, you could actually test if they're the same before you generate the string, right? But these are just like, I don't know. Like you're not, it might make it faster a little bit, but like making a substring in Java is actually really fast. It's constant time, like regardless of the length of the string. So I don't know. I don't know if it's worth making this faster.
You say
Anybody?
you're having a problem evaluating things, Reed?
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. That fast pal function I've got written up is not being liked for some reason.
Well, oh, you don't get an error message.
You're hitting Alt Enter, or you're hitting the button.
I'm hitting Alt Enter.
Yeah, Alt Enter doesn't work for me either. I just had to click the button.
Okay, I'll have to try that then.
It's working for me.
Good old browser compatibility problems, maybe.
What are you running?
Latest Chrome.
Yeah, should work. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Does the button work is the question.
Button works online, but Alt Enter has never worked. Like,
Alt Enter only worked this week. It was the first week it worked. So.
Here we go.
Oh, Alt, not Command. Okay, gotcha.
I think I got this working. There's a minor bug in my notation, so I can Command Enter it for.
It's Alt Enter, not Command Enter.
All right, let's try evaling this. See what happens. Eval. Press the button. No.
Nope.
Nope. Doesn't like me.
Oh man, that's weird. I'm sorry. Let me paste what you've got in there, and I'll paste it in mine and see if that works. Okay.
Worked at my local REPL.
Is it a Clojure script REPL or Clojure?
Clojure.
It's Clojure as well. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, the button hasn't been working for me either.
Oh no.
And
Didn't
neither
work
is
for me.
Alt Enter.
It might not like the type hint. I
Yeah.
don't know if you're doing some
Yeah,
parsing
that might.
here.
Let's give it a type hint. Yeah.
No, still doesn't work. Let's see.
Yeah, it's not working for me either. Oh my god, that's not good news. Yeah.
I found a bug.
Yeah. Everyone finds a fucking bug.
I'm sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. There is just maybe plus.
What are you doing with the -1% one?
So that's okay. So I got a copy. I think the pound paren lambda it didn't like. So the trick that this is trying to play, I think I can get rid of that mid computation entirely. I'm not actually using it. Is you can go through half the range of the length of the string, and you subtract and you get the ith character, and you get the length minus I minus 1th character. Because if you do length minus I, you're gonna get the length of the array, which is 1 off from the end.
Oh, is that an L and not a 1? Okay, it looks like
yeah.
2
That's a terrible variable name. I'm using L and 1 there.
It's the font. Yeah. Don't blame your name.
They look the same. Yeah. So the trick this is playing is it's just scanning. It's scanning the string in from the sides, checking to see if each pair of characters is equal. Rather than having to like sequence the whole thing, reverse it, and go backwards.
Right.
Okay, so
the problem is that you got rid of mid. You're using mid at the end.
Oh, I did. Oops.
Yeah.
I think the mid math might not be quite right as well. But let's see. Okay, so that's working. Let's try this. So fast pal of test 1 or string
should be false. That's true.
False.
Do something like mom.
ABA. True.
And to appease our Swedish audience, put a BBA.
Okay.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh.
That's
cool.
REPtiLe, though. Is that faster? Should be.
Apart from the bugs, yeah.
We could bust out spec and try and generate some strings here, but that would.
Spec's available. Do it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's say require Clojure to spec.
Do we have something to test?
As S. There's the baked-in time function, which is not ideal, but it'll do the job. No, unable to resolve symbol quote. What? That's not right.
Oh, you put a space before the.
No, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't? It looks like you did.
And even if I didn't, the Java Clojure parser will accept that.
Okay, can you do write quote out?
Right.
Instead of using the
quote. What?
QUO.
Oh, backtick.
Yeah.
No, not backtick.
Just quote. The word quote.
The word quote.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a problem with the reader, you know.
Okay, there we go. Our business.
Yeah.
We found a bug.
Come on, that's 2 bugs. It's nice. I've got YouTube to record my bugs.
Right.
Excellent.
Someone is submitting pull requests as we speak. There you go.
Okay,
or at least documenting the issues, right? Chat room.
Palindrome.
There are 5 people.
So a palindrome's a string, and we want to say we have a generator for it. Has anybody used with gen before?
Yeah.
You don't have to, but yeah.
Okay, I mean, this is going to be the laziest generator I've written in a while. So we're just going to say gen sample s gen of string.
It's par info, by the way. You are allowed to hit return sometimes.
Oh, not quite my Emacs. I'm a smart parens user, not a parinfo user, so I don't have the muscle memory quite right. So let's see. Gen sample gives me 1. Is that what it does? I always forget.
I think it gives you a seek.
Oh, I did not want to type whatever that was. Capital Sigma was not what I had on my mind there. Alt enter. It does not like that. Why do you not like this? Let me do the REPL thing.
You also misspelled palindrome.
Thanks, Mom. Clojure test check generators on class.
You've got to include generators.
Drat.
So you can add them.
Okay. Well, let's see if we can inject a test check. Clojure org Clojure test check. What's the test check version?
090, I think, is the latest official.
For test check, really?
There's a 010 something.
10.000 alpha 3. 0.10.0 alpha 3.
Yeah.
All right, let's see if
Or I
this
could
works.
just give you the SHA. Like,
Oh, SHAs.
come in on
I'm not typing a whole SHA in.
A8EEB.
Eric, why?
Why?
We have an audience to entertain while we type.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I can't just click over here all day. And that's not. What did I do wrong here? I added the dep. You cannot locate Clojure test check generators in it on class.
I'm going to get off and go eat my lunch.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna forsake this particular venture as well. I'm afraid
It's okay. You've found enough bugs. Stop now.
Stop while we're ahead. Did we even solve the problem? We did solve longest palindrome. Okay.
The problem was solved. Yeah.
I just came in late and messed everything up.
Can we
generate? Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, before we leave, can we post the contribution documentation? Let me see if I can find it. To the chat for Pankaj, who asks what's the procedure to pick a ticket for a newbie CLJS tickets? And actually, I couldn't find the documentation for picking tickets.
Yeah, there is a query in there, and I don't think it's. Oh God, I don't think that's on the ClojureScript website.
The way I found the newbie tickets was I found one that had tag newbie and then clicked all the newbies.
Yeah.
Or I clicked that tag and they all showed up. But it's certainly not easy to find just going through Jira. So I didn't know if there was like and then once you pick them up, I think
the other thing to say is that picking a ticket, I think, Mike, you said you can just assign it to yourself.
Yeah. If you want to like work on it, knowing that no one else is perhaps working on it as well.
All right.
You can do that. Yep.
So I hope that answers the question. All right, I'm going to go.
All right.
It's been lovely, everyone.
Cheers, Mia.
All right. So maybe we should just call it a day.
I think so.
Or are you still working on something, Eric? I just saw a bunch of stuff go by. Random substrings.
I was just generating random strings.
Oh. You're out of whole cloth producing spec for yourself.
That's right.
MacGyvering it, yeah.
Oh, I mean, I think spec is a little overkill for generating a random string.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Random string. There we go. Up to 1,000 characters. Now we can test if it's a palindrome. Time.
Right, okay.
Time. Do times. 1,000 times.
Okay.
Let S is our string, and then we're going to test pal S. Looks good?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
214 milliseconds, and then his was called fast pal.
I think so, yeah. Maybe no question mark? I can't remember.
Oh yeah, no question mark. Okay. Different strings, string out of range 1.
Yeah, you found a bug in
Maybe
his code, basically. Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
His
aggressively
maths
optimized.
might be wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fast pal. Maybe it's assuming a non-empty string. Nope. That's not it.
Maybe it's an odd number or something. Odd numbers. No, that's an odd number string as well.
Yeah, that's what it is.
See, isn't it?
Odd
Yeah,
number.
yeah. That's
Okay, he's got an off by 1 error. That's okay. Right. We could generate only even numbers.
Even number? Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to our random string. Where am I? There. And so instead of doing length it's random, I'm going to do 500 and I multiply by 2 times 2. Now it is even.
I need to keep the format in there. This little thing where you get in the history loses the format, so I need to keep that. Because it's a bit annoying to have to go back and fix the format, isn't it?
There we go. And then this one was how fast? Oh, significantly faster. Of course, you don't know what strings were selected. But
it's likely faster. Yeah.
Well, you could do, couldn't you do it in the same
less
thing?
garbage collector pressure. All those little seeks.
All the seeks that are going on, yeah, because FastPal just kind of looks at the string in place, right?
Yep,
just like
in place.
indexes in there. Yeah.
Cool. Alrighty.
Yeah. Right. Well, modulo shitload of bugs. The reptile.
I know it happens every time.
Thanks, guys.
White space.
Good testing.
No, it's pretty good though. It's actually highly interactive. Like we were all typing at the same time, right? Which is good. As
Actually,
opposed to like
that part worked as advertised. Yeah, it's never been tested like that before. So
and no friggin' tmux shit. We're able to get right in there in a web page.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it needs a bit more work to help things out and obviously to be correct. But you know,
yeah.
It's going in the right direction. Yeah, cool. Okay.
All right.
Thank you, guys. And looks like we've got quite a lot of people watching now, which was nice, and 20 odd people. So
cool.
That was good.
Yeah, and y'all, I'm serious. Make some issues. Open some issues on his GitHub.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, I mean,
it didn't work.
Show Ray how it's impossible to take lots of PRs simultaneously. See if he can.
You don't
see if he can scale.
How complicated.
Overwhelm me, guys. Yeah.
Overwhelm. Yeah. Like I can't take it anymore. I can't merge them all quickly enough.
I wish this was more maintainer centric.
Oh, that's right. You got to sign the CA, the Ray CA. Yeah.
I mean, you know, yeah, okay. Let's not relitigate that one.
Okay. On that note.
On that note, let me read our outro thing.
Yeah.
I have it somewhere. Just a sec. Here it is. All right. So if you like the show, please subscribe. And that way you will be notified when we're live. So you have to subscribe, and there's going to be a little alarm icon next to the subscribe button. So if you click that, YouTube is going to buzz your devices and email you and stuff when we're live. That way you'll be sure never to miss these awesome shows. All right. See you later. See you next time.